Garlic, thanks for sitting down with me again today. I appreciate it. Garlic, we are here in Vienna at the ESA's annual meeting. A huge, gigantic success again. Congratulations.
Thank you.
One of the big topics of conversation was the EU Commission's decision to allow countries to restrict the cultivation of GM crops. Big discussion point. This is certainly seen as a setback by ESA. Can you talk a little bit about next steps? What is ESA's approach to this situation now?
I think it's not a secret that we have not been in favor of this Commission proposal, and we have tried to argue with Member States, with the European Parliament against this decision. Unfortunately, the political majority was in favor of having this restriction allowed, which is contrary actually to some of the basic principles of the EU internal market and the way that we normally authorize safe products to be indeed marketed freely throughout the European Union. We now have a similar proposal on the table for the actual import of GM crops. So commodities that would come from the United States, from Brazil, Argentina, where countries again should be given the possibility to restrict that import on their territory, which is probably even more unworkable than the first proposal. So we are heavily involved in the campaign against it. At the same time, indeed, it has led this campaign by obviously those that are most concerned, which is the grain trade. But also farmers are quite vocal on this. The latest news is that today, actually, the European Parliament's Environment Committee, which is leading this discussion, has voted against this proposal. Nevertheless, we don't know where it's going to end up. In the beginning, also the cultivation proposal was much criticized, and in the end, we got a respective decision. So we hope that Europe will be a bit more wise as far as the GM food and feed import decision is concerned.
What do you think needs to shift for consumer perception within the European Union?
I think it's probably a combination of things. It is on the one hand, indeed, we need to come back to a situation where we discuss more with European citizens about how modern agriculture functions. People are more and more, I think, distant from agricultural practices. More and more people live in cities, have little relation with agriculture. And I think it's also fair to say that both retail and food production companies play a little bit with an image of an agriculture that is actually no longer the reality. So I think we need to just explain more and better what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. That requires also a good set of transparency. At the same time, I think it is important to think about where do products now come from that have an actual either consumer benefit or indeed a societal benefit, because in particular in Europe, it's not only about consumption, but it's also about environmental questions and others, where consumers are inclined to change their mind.
Now, on a global level, how do you feel the European seed industry compares from the perspective of technology and innovation to the rest of the world?
Well, on the one hand, I think Europe has always been a stronghold of plant science research. But I think the first time that we saw indeed technologies being developed in Europe, but then later on being driven out of Europe by an unfavorable regulatory environment, was indeed in the area of GMOs, where Europe again was leading some of the scientific discussions, was leading publications, was leading even product development, where in the end the products, the production and the trade ended up on the other side of the Atlantic. There is a fear that this might continue with some of the new breeding techniques, for example, but generally with a perception of Europe of thinking about farming in a rather romantic and backward-looking way, instead of indeed appreciating the innovation that science and technology is bringing to farming. So I think, yes, we are still doing well, and if you look at pure statistics, you will find that the leading seed exporting countries, 6 out of the first 10 on the world scale, are European. A number of worldwide very successful companies have their roots in Europe, and Europe is still a very important market. Nevertheless, we need to probably do more in the future if we are to maintain this position.
You've had a busy year this past year, Garlic. ESA has launched a couple of key campaigns. We've seen great strides of success with the ESTA. We've seen the Speak Up for Seeds program, both incredibly successful to my understanding. Two-sided question. One, what kind of feedback have you heard about those two programs? And two, what other initiatives do we look for to come from ESA for the coming year?
I think to start maybe with with our ESTA project, the seed treatment quality assurance. I think it's true that it took a bit of time for it to really, well, I should say, get rooted actually in the sector. But I think it's now common understanding and also acceptance that the sector itself needs to do what it can to assure that where we do treat seed with plant protection products, but also with biologicals and other products, it is important that we do that as well as we can, and that we set standards and that we also implement procedures in order to control that these standards are being met and are being met consistently. We are now successful in having agents doing that implementation work with us together in a number of key countries, France, UK, Germany, Poland. We're on the way to have an agreement with Italy, Spain, and so forth. So I think it shows that it is spreading, that more and more seed companies accept this and see it also as a marketing tool to actually say we are doing more than what is necessary. We can do better, and we can prove that we do better. And we have even a certificate that indeed proves that we're doing this. So I think this is indeed a successful element also of self-regulation of the industry. If we look to the Speak Up for Seeds campaign, I think it's more of a long-term commitment that we have engaged in. It is indeed telling more people in a comprehensive way of what the sector is doing, how is it doing that, why is it doing that, what are the products that are coming out of our work, and how do consumers and citizens benefit from what we're doing. Right. I think this is really a long-term project for which we also will need to engage in quite new, for us at least as a sector, quite new ways of discussion, of interaction with different societal groups, with the public, via social media, such as what we're doing now. But I think there is a need for indeed increased transparency, increase also really speaking out, having the desire to actually demonstrate what we're doing. I think there is a lot of value in that. We have not done enough in that area. We have thought that some of these things were almost a given, and in fact they aren't. Where we are going in a similar direction now is what you have seen in our General Assembly when it comes to the access and the benefit sharing for plant genetic resources, where on the one hand we are very critical of some of the rules and regulations that are coming up on European level or that have been set on world level, and where we try our best to actually discuss and negotiate with governments, with these international institutions, how these systems can be improved to match business realities. That does not mean that we are ditching our responsibility. We know that the seed industry has a responsibility and that it has a role to play. And we have demonstrated that also, I think, very visibly and very successfully with the financial donation that we have given to the international treaty today, which is the first of its kind, and I think it shows a very clear signal of political commitment, financial commitment, and I think it should reinsure the treaty that we really are willing and able to engage. Nevertheless, improvements are required, but I think it's two sides of the same coin. It is, on the one hand, the right kind of regulatory environment, and on the other side, indeed, it is also the acceptance on our side of a certain commitment of our own.
Right. I think that what I have seen, and I would like to hear your feedback, we had over 900 people attending the event this year.
Yeah.
I sense a pride and commitment that, and maybe it's always been there, but it hasn't been as loud and proud as I sense it is this year. There seems to be a passion within the group to take on some of these initiatives that you have led and that you have spearheaded for the industry to grab hold of. There seems to be that passion. Am I misreading it?
No, I think you're right. I think the speaker for Seeds was, I think, a triggering point. I think when the discussion in Europe about a revision of the plant reproductive material legislation, as it was called, so the seed marketing rules, actually failed to win a political majority last year, and where a lot of misinformation and false accusations were surrounding this debate. I think the sector not only felt criticized, which is something that some of us are quite used to in some surroundings, but it felt it was pushed in a corner where it shouldn't be. It felt that it was really misrepresented. And I think that really triggered this passion to say, we do not accept to be mischaracterized as a sector that is responsible for a loss of biodiversity. No, we create the biodiversity. We are not a sector that is pushing a kind of agriculture that produces unhealthy food or has negative environmental effects. No, we're doing the contrary of that. We are producing new plant varieties that can deal with climate change, that bring environmental benefits by, for example, improved nitrogen efficiency, etc. So this, I think, triggered this need and on this passion to indeed now go out and speak up for Seeds and to make people understand of what we're doing. We can be proud of what we're doing, but probably being proud is one thing, but showing that pride to third parties is what was maybe lacking a little bit. And I think that is indeed has come back.
You should be very proud of the association, because I think that's exactly what this group has led a very strong and passionate group to do, because the conversations I had while I've been here in Vienna have been exactly that there's a readiness to grab that torch, so to speak, and be able to go share it. There's a
willingness to engage, that's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Great event again this year, fantastic turnout, a wonderful dialogue. You and your team did a really great job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for sitting down with me, Garlic.
More than welcome.